What if the reason you feel constantly drained, emotionally numb, and mentally foggy is not because you are lazy or unmotivated, but because your mind has been carrying more than it was ever designed to handle for too long without real recovery? Emotional exhaustion doesn't announce itself loudly, it builds quietly in the background of your life until even normal days start to feel heavy. And in this video, we're breaking down 19 signs you are emotionally exhausted so you can finally understand what your inner world has been trying to signal through fatigue, irritability, and detachment. First, you feel tired all the time, no matter how much you sleep, as if rest no longer restores you. Second, even simple tasks like replying to messages, getting ready, or making decisions feel unusually difficult. Third, you wake up already feeling drained before your day even begins. Fourth, you feel emotionally numb, like you are observing your life instead of living it. Fifth, things that once made you happy no longer bring you any real excitement. Sixth, you get irritated very easily over small or minor situations. Seventh, your patience is extremely low and you feel constantly on edge. Eighth, your mind feels foggy, slow, or overloaded, making it hard to think clearly. Ninth, you forget small things frequently because your mental capacity feels maxed out. 10th, you start avoiding social interactions even with people you care about. 11th, you isolate yourself more and prefer being alone without necessarily knowing why. 12th, you overthink everything, replaying conversations, decisions, and outcomes repeatedly in your mind. 13th, you feel physically exhausted without any medical explanation. 14th, your motivation drops significantly, even for things that used to matter deeply. 15th, you feel disconnected from your own emotions, like you can't fully identify or process what you are feeling. 16th, you either cry very easily or feel emotionally blocked and unable to cry even when you want to. 17th, simple choices like what to eat or wear feel overwhelming and mentally draining. 18th, you procrastinate more than usual, not out of laziness, but because starting anything feels like carrying weight. 19th, you keep telling yourself, I'll be fine after this week, or once this phase passes, I'll feel better. But that relief keeps getting delayed. And when these signs start showing up, it's important to understand that emotional exhaustion is not a personality problem. It is often the result of prolonged stress, emotional pressure, lack of boundaries, constant mental load, unresolved feelings, and the habit of pushing yourself beyond your capacity for too long until your system begins to slow down in self-protection. And what most people don't realize is that emotional exhaustion doesn't just affect your mood, it affects your focus, your memory, your relationships, and even your physical energy. Because when your mind is overloaded, it starts shutting down non-essential emotional responses just to keep you functioning. That's why you may feel disconnected, unmotivated, or blank, even in situations where you know you should care, because your brain is trying to conserve whatever energy it has left. But the important truth here is that this state is not permanent, and it is not your identity. It is a signal, and signals are meant to be responded to, not ignored. And the first step toward recovery is not forcing yourself to perform better, but allowing yourself to reduce pressure, even slightly, by stepping back from unnecessary demands, limiting emotional overload, and giving your mind moments where it is not required to process, decide, or perform. Because recovery from emotional exhaustion is less about doing more and more about doing less of what drains you, and slowly reintroducing what restores you. And that can look like resting without guilt, setting small boundaries without over explaining, saying no to things that feel heavy, and allowing yourself to exist without constantly producing or achieving something. Because your nervous system doesn't reset through pressure, it resets through safety, consistency, and calm. And the longer you ignore emotional exhaustion, the louder it becomes through burnout, anxiety, or complete shutdown. But when you start listening early, you give yourself a chance to rebuild balance instead of breaking down. And the goal is not to become endlessly productive or perfectly balanced, but to stop surviving on empty and start returning to a state where your mind doesn't feel like it's constantly overloaded, where your emotions feel accessible again, and where life doesn't feel like something you are just enduring, but something you are actually present in.